Hey, what's up? Today we're doing female repro system, and we're going to start out with this model right here. It's a nice model. I like this model, not just because of the fancy, nice wooden background, but I like it because we've got the female internal genitalia here, and it's actually kind of been taken out of the pelvis and spread out and stood up, which makes things a little bit easier to see. So we're kind of taking out of its normal anatomical position a little bit here to make it easier to see. Okay, so first things first, this is the uterus right here. The uterus is going to receive the developing embryo. It is going to house it. It is going to nourish it, maintain it, and eventually eject it when it's time. I think that's the right verb, right?
Eject is a good word.
Yeah, I think so. So this is the uterus right here. We'll come back to it. These are the fallopian tubes, or uterine tubes, or oviducts. I guess that's more for animals than for humans. The egg-carrying tubes. These guys are going to carry the ovulated secondary oocyte, and sperm are going to be swimming through here, and maybe the sperm and egg will meet, like right there. Probably they won't. If they do meet, they'll make a zygote, and that zygote's probably going to die. If the zygote doesn't die, it may make it for a little while, and it may make it to the uterus, and then it's still the developing blastocyst, I guess, that's there. It's still probably going to die, but maybe it won't, and maybe it'll end up fertilizing.
But in no way should you use that information as a birth control method.
No, it doesn't mean, no, not at all. Not at all. We're not dispensing any birth control, any advice here at all. Anyway, what else do we have? So, I think we got to try and minimize the laughter on these videos, all right? Yeah. So we have an ovary right here. The ovary is going to create the egg cells, the oocytes, and I like to say oocytes instead of oocytes.
I think oocyte is the more correct pronunciation.
We also are going to make estrogen and progesterone in the ovary. The ovary is anchored to the uterus by an ovarian ligament. We also have a big, wide mesentery here, a double fold of peritoneum, and we got it on both sides here. This big old mesentery is called the broad ligament. Okay, so this is the ovary. The ovary is going to make oocytes. On average, one special oocyte called a secondary oocyte is going to be ovulated from one of the ovaries per menstrual cycle. And supposedly it alternates, like one, then the other, then the other, then the other. How that happens, I don't even know. So the ovary is going to make oocytes. Oocyte is going to get ovulated. Usually, let's pretend like it's a 28-day cycle, so somewhere around day 14, the oocyte is going to be ovulated, and it's going to end up in the fallopian tube. Prior to ovulation, the ovary is going to be making a lot of estrogens. You think about estrogen as the pre-ovulatory hormone. The word estrogen literally means to make crazy. So yeah, so it makes you wonder, did a guy come up with this term or did a lady?
Probably
a guy.
It's appropriate.
Yeah. After ovulation, the ovary is going to make a hormone called progesterone. Think again, pro meaning for, gesterone referring to pregnancy. So after ovulation, the body is going to think, I am going to get pregnant, I better get ready. Well, I don't know if we'll come back to those hormones or not. Depends on how much time we have, because I tend to get rather long-winded. So the ovulated oocyte ends up in the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube has these little fingers called fimbriae. The fimbriae have cilia on them. Cilia sweep to create a current of fluid that draws the oocyte into the fallopian tube. This region right here where the fimbriae have converged is called the infundibulum. Then we keep going, and the fallopian tube kind of curves around the ovary here. This is where it's at its widest, and this is the ampulla of the fallopian tube. This is the most likely site where the sperm cell and the egg cell might meet. If we keep going down, or over, whatever direction we're traveling here, it gets narrow right here. This is called the isthmus of the fallopian tube because it is narrow. Think about like the isthmus of Panama. Go there and see how narrow It is. And then we get into the uterus. Now, the uterus has 3 layers to its wall. The outer layer is the perimetrium. Then there is a smooth muscle myometrium. Then there is an inner endometrium. And on another model, we'll see the sublayers of the endometrium. The endometrium is the layer that is going to respond to estrogen and progesterone. It is a layer that's going to grow in preparation for pregnancy, during pregnancy. It's the layer that's going to be partially shed in the event that pregnancy does not occur. Now, the uterus also has regions. The region above the pen here is the fundus, the dome-shaped region. The region right here is the body of the uterus, the biggest region here. And then here is the neck of the uterus, the cervix. Now, the body of the uterus is where we find the uterine cavity. Within the cervix, we have the cervical canal. We can see some rugy-like structures. You can probably figure out what those are for. And we have a pair of openings in our cervix. So on this side of the cervical canal, this opening right here is the internal os, OS. Don't spell that wrong on the exam. Right here, we have another opening between the cervical canal and the vaginal canal. That's the external os. Now, on this model, we also see rugae in the vagina as well. And we see some space around the cervix. The space around the cervix is called the fornix. All right. I think that's about all I want to do in this model.